Kia ora and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm sitting here with my friend,
Ricci Persico.
and we hope you enjoy this episode. It's about time. It's all going down, man. So my coach, everyone would have seen on Instagram, and I shared it on both pages, but every time I tag a Persico Performance, this is the man behind the muscle, this is the man behind the action and the movements, but everything seems pretty cool with you right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's always one of those ones where if you're looking on Instagram or social media, you always see the best life. But I mean, I can't complain too much at the moment. Businesses, since that last lockdown, kind of every week is just kind of building, and people like yourself sharing the brand always helps, and kind of people just kind of follow along for the journey. And when they kind of realise that you can actually help them in a certain way, they're going to jump on board. So it's just getting that exposure, which has been unreal of late. And
yeah, man, that's awesome. It's so cool, and I think there's a lot that we can talk about today. Especially, I mean, the first thing that caught my attention was as I walked in, and just before we were about to record, you were like, "I'm just going to go flush my nose." What is that all about? Because I know you've been through a bit of surgery around the whole nasal area, and just talk us through that.
yeah, so firstly, with a guy with a big nose, it wasn't structural or aesthetics. Probably, how old would I have been? 14 years old?
Yeah.
Broke my nose playing rugby.
Right.
Broke it 3 times in a year.
Yeah.
Just kind of kept going back, and it sticks out like dog's balls, so it's always catching an elbow.
Yeah.
And then at that point I was like, I'll just get surgery once I've finished playing rugby, and once kind of there's no chance I'll break it consistently. Went into the doctor, and he's like, mate, this is going to change your life.
Yeah.
So had surgery the first day we went to level 2
Right.
after the last lockdown. So basically straightened up, kind of the insides opened up, and now I can fully breathe. So learning to nose breathe again, all that good stuff, like it's been unreal. Like just kind of always have to, like, doing exercise or going to sleep, like, Ricky, use your nose.
Yeah.
You can, otherwise
Yeah. Have you read Breath?
I haven't. Those kind of things are on my list now that I can actually do it.
Yeah.
I want to try and get into it.
Because every time I read something like that, because I'm a serial mouth breather, so are a lot of people, and it's just because what was your clinical term for the actual, besides the breakage?
Oh, no idea.
It's not a deviated septum?
Yes.
It was a deviated. All right, cool. Because like most people actually like have something along those lines, and like one nostril won't quite work properly, and they're like, okay, all you need to do is breathe through your nose, and then I'm like, okay, sweet as, and I'll be like, like I just can't get anything going. But have you noticed? So what post-op you're out? What, 2 months? Close to 2 months post-op? 3?
That must be longer than that.
Yeah.
It was like start of September?
About September-ish.
Maybe 3.
Because I saw you just before you were about to get it done.
Yes.
Then you got it done. So any major differences so far?
Not really, to be honest. Like I think I definitely sleep better. I've been sleeping better because then, like, I not being able to nose breathe, I always mouth breathe, very heavy breathing, and like I don't know, there must be something going on there in terms of my sleep. And then I did a half marathon during that lockdown.
Yeah.
And then I told myself I was never going to run again, but I went for one run, and I felt a lot better in terms of just like I went with a friend, and we were kind of yarning and talking the whole way through, and didn't really feel like I was really bogged down because I could actually nose breathe and kind of get enough oxygen.
Mate, that's awesome.
But yeah, still, like the doctor kind of said over the next 6 months you'll kind of start to realise. So I think it's still kind of getting there.
Yeah, and I guess it's anything like with rehab or recovery or anything, we can't just expect immediate results. I mean, sometimes you do get them, and sometimes it's really, really cool, but if you go through the proper processes. So in terms of processes and putting things back in place with you and, having to do anything, it's been a journey for you, and like a lot of it has been building up. And I remember when we were going through our degrees together, because you're 1 year younger than me, there's those names that you see as part of a group, and you're just like, this person will do something great, like the Kendall Malcolms of this world, the Ryan Keelys, all those sorts of people. And then you had your group as well, in your year group, and actually we were all blokes. It was pretty cool. That's the first thing. But going back down to university, and you have a podcast yourself. You've talked a little bit about your journey, but we'll go deeper into a few things. When you were going down there for phys ed, and you did come into phys ed, you were a year older, a year removed from a lot of your peers. Thinking back then, did you feel like you were old?
I always feel old, mate.
Yeah.
Yes and no. So like, I think going into that and seeing everyone, like I felt a little bit older because I had a little bit more experience. Like I just spent the last year living in London, and I kind of lived by myself and could handle my piss a little bit more. I think, actually I shouldn't say that. I could not handle my piss better than my peers, but like I feel like I was a little bit more mature than the most part, but not really. Like I was still very immature at heart. But then in terms of all the other stuff, not really. Like I just kind of knew that because I had a year away from study and like I hadn't really stressed my brain in any kind of capacity in terms of learning anything new while I was over there, that I had to dive into the books and kind of create those habits early on. Otherwise, I was probably going to be pretty fucked.
For sure. Because I remember you were in some of my shoots, and like I just remember there were all these different people, different halls, and they're like, oh, my tutor in my hall said this, and then you would just be like, bam, 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 and you kind of like knew everything as you were going through. I was like, I'm just going to use this guy every time we like come to a standstill. I'm like, I'll come to this guy, and then I found out you weren't even in a hall. You came flatting the first year, so like talking about your peers and everything, because most of them would have been in halls, and how was that kind of with you, just feeling like, I don't know, a sense of belonging in that little bit?
I think that was what was so great about PE.
Yeah.
Because we had dance and we had gym. So I was actually meeting all these people and like going to lectures with all these people. And then because I was technically a second year age, I had a lot of friends who were in second year.
Yeah.
So I still had a good group of people, and then also met some people overseas that were in PE.
Right.
So there was Caleb Papata Hunt,
Davo,
and a few other lads. So like we kind of stuck together that first year.
Yeah.
Kind of had our own little group. And then, flatting with a couple of good friends.
Yeah.
Didn't really feel like I missed out on the hall experience that much until kind of probably later on in uni, once all those people that were in second year left.
Absolutely,
and I was left with a smaller, tight-knit group, and you're like, oh yeah, where is everyone?
Yeah, and then in terms of your academic, so from there, it's easy to go on a course that's pretty much set for you. You kind of pick your papers, but then I remember the defining moment in about third year for you, and I was in my final year, and we were talking about the cancer recovery paper, which my supervisor runs, and as part of that, you kind of have to start really looking at what it is that you want to do, and you guys decided. But then it didn't even end up eventuating. Oh, two of them did. You're like, we want to be physios. Where did that thought come from? And then, like, why did it turn out that you didn't actually go down that route? Because you did all the papers. You became eligible to be able to do it. And then what happened?
So I suppose I flipped and flopped the whole way through uni. So during my gap year, I was kind of like a assistant PE teacher at a school. So teaching kids how to throw, catch. Yep. In the afternoons, I'd coach rugby teams. So I came into PE wanting to be a PE teacher.
Yeah.
During hubs, which everyone hates, I loved and fell in love with the human body. Like, how is it that we know so much about this stuff and all these little things, but yet there's so much we don't know,
100%.
and like just general movement and like all those kind of processes that are going on, and it's like blows my mind.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool, like I want to do something with the human body. Physio is like seems like quite a good thing because you're involved with sports and all that stuff. So third year, we started doing the health side papers.
Yeah.
During that, I was kind of like, what am I doing here? Like, is this really what I want to do? And chem was kind of up here playing over my head. Like, I was like, I don't want to do chem.
Yeah.
And I kind of realized that I don't want to be working with, and probably a bad way to say, but like broken individuals or like people that are rehabbing. I want to be working with the 1%ers. Like, how can we get you to like, so you're firing, so that you're the best you've ever been, that kind of performance side of it. So I went and talked to the great Ian Blake, and I was just like, mate, I want to get involved in the strength and conditioning side of things. I want to be pushing those boundaries. Like, where can I start?
Yeah.
He got me in touch with Pete Gallagher, who was the All Blacks physio at the time, who was looking to put together like some kind of culture / team to help with Kavanagh College, first 15. And from there, kind of started with them, and then everything's just kind of added on top.
Right. And then so when you go through that, so you still have about 1 year to go because you made that decision. Did you make that decision in your final year of PE?
That was kind of end of third year.
End of third year.
And then so fourth year kind of really actually started diving into it.
Cool. And then more knowing that you were going strength and conditioning type route. Yeah. And, talking about the great Ian Blake, I was on Brett Harris's podcast, and basically we just talked about my calves for so long, and I was like, and Ian used to always talk about my calves. I was like, shut up, bro. But he was a great guy, and he was obviously tied closely with PE legend Phil Hancock as well. Yep. Where did he come into your journey, Phil Hancock?
So probably started, I suppose. Did you do papers with him in second year?
Yeah. Oh, he came in and did a little bit.
So 311 and 312, the exercise prescription papers. Jeez, that little stroke. I got top of class in both of those, and that was kind of like my jam. Like, got along with Phil really well. Like, I'd go and yarn to him about like things and kind of like things in the lectures.
Yeah.
And then talk to him about being my honours supervisor. And he came out to bat for me because I didn't have the prerequisite papers.
That's right. Yeah.
But that kind of fell down the tube, so I did a small research paper with him instead in fourth year.
Yep.
and then planned to go on and do my masters with him.
Yep.
And then obviously he got the big kaboot.
Yeah.
So that kind of derailed that, and I went to Otago Polytech.
Yeah.
And I said to the Polytech, look, like Phil's still like someone that I look up to, and like I really value his input, so I'm still going to go and see him. He's happy to kind of see me on the side and like go over kind of my writing and like a few ideas.
Yeah.
And they're like, cool, let's get him on as a contractor.
Yeah.
So he ended up contracting through there, and then he's been working there for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to say that I kind of helped him get that, because he's a very smart man. He would have got that job anyway, but like it was cool to know that I kind of helped push him towards the Polytech and like still being able to do his craft, because he's so good at what he does, and like he's like definitely like one of my biggest influences in my career and kind of who I am now.
It's part of that transition, I guess, from him going from the university, because I know he was like freelancing for a little bit, just kind of doing work around the place, finishing writing his book, and so when you're going through that, so where did the actual understanding, because you talk about hubs and you talk about the body, but what about actual like high elite performance, kind of like seeing people move in a way and that's so efficient, so economic, but then just so graceful and kind of defies, but like uses physics while defying it? When did that kind of become like, okay, we understand how this body works, but how do we actually make it work at the top level? Do you know when that kind of clicked in your head?
I don't know if it actually has, to be honest. Like, it's one of those ones, like, I'm still trying to learn every week. Like, I'm definitely not the smartest bloke in the room, and I'm okay saying that.
Yeah.
But probably when I was at High Performance Sport doing my internship, Mikey Jacobs, head SNC there, like his thought process and the way he looks at movement and kind of, so he's working with Anna Grimaldi, so she's gold at the last 2 Paralympics.
Who you've also had on
my podcast, just the way he broke down her movement and like stuff like it was just mind blowing, and it kind of made me realise that there was a lot going on that from the outside looking in, I'm like, I think sets and reps and weights and what we're doing here, but he was looking at force velocity profiles and little things like that, where I was just like, okay, cool, like, there's actually a lot more going on here, and like it's so intriguing and kind of dives you into that kind of, you realise physics is such a big part of it. Yeah. Whereas like a lot of people just kind of go, cool, you're going to do 90% of your 1 RM for 3 reps and we're going to be humming.
That's, oh man, it's one of those things where, I mean, until you actually do Phil's paper, we'll bring it back to him, and doing micro themes.
Yes.
And like having
that's some memories
like
right there.
100 or 200 words, 1 page basically, to write that you don't know what you're talking about, but also that you're trying to build a conclusive argument, but then like actually you have to see both sides in the shortest amount of time, and you just have some of the smartest people in the world about like a particular movement, just showing just how much they could know, but don't quite know, but potentially could know. So with your, how was that a humbling experience for you? Or was it something that you've always been quite naturally good at, just being able to kind of identify flaws in your thinking, or like trying to build ways to get better?
That's a good question. I think probably my self-awareness came from, so I suppose at High Performance intern, when I was an intern at High Performance, I'd already been an intern at the Highlanders the year before. Yeah. And so Mikey had kind of seen me on the gym floor, seen me around the building, and he kind of took me under his wing and said, look, like, I know you can hold your own in the gym floor. Like, I've seen you with the Landers boys. I want to work on your self-awareness and your actual, how you portray yourself in kind of the business setting, or when you're upstairs talking to the staff. Yeah. So that probably lent me towards that kind of self-awareness around like actually diving internally and thinking, okay, like, not only do I know this, what do I know, what don't I know, but also like after an encounter, how did that person perceive me? Yeah. Did I say the right things? What was their body language like? And like when you leave the room, like just thinking about, okay, shit, like did they get my point? Yeah. And then obviously trying to do better. Yeah. Because there's a lot of things where people read between the lines, and I think that was probably me walking into the High Performance building as this very nervous, anxious kid. So that was unreal. Like that's made me like grow so much just from that one little thought around self-awareness. Now I just reflect on most interactions and kind of make sure you're putting your best foot forward when you meet someone. Yeah. And in terms of the strength and conditioning culture, because I guess there is a bit of a culture around it, there's a lot of people who know a lot, and they'll definitely let you know that they know a lot, and then there's a bunch of people who kind of get caught up in the minutiae of everything. Like it's a broad spectrum, but like everyone's super, super talented and knowledgeable individuals. When you stepped into that space, besides that awareness of the people that you're going to be closely working with, what about the wider community and where you see yourself fit into there? Yeah, so I'm of the kind of thing that no one wants to hear what I've got to say, and there's that many there's that many better people on Instagram and stuff. But I think my thing kind of lies, and I've kind of probably figured this out in the last year or so, but kind of like guys my age that are kind of falling out of touch with the gym and health and fitness, and trying to get them. I'm trying to, at the moment, actually launching a program next week.
Awesome.
I don't know when this is dropping, but trying to get a community going of people like around the 20 to 30s, kind of climbing the business ladder.
Yeah.
Trying to get them back into the gym through a community and like talking about their processes and stuff.
Awesome.
But in terms of like the strength and conditioning stuff, I don't really know where I fit at the moment. I'm kind of figuring out, I know pro sports isn't for me after my experience with the Highlanders and kind of not really having an experience in the last few years. But I'd really like the youth space, and I think that's probably where I kind of fit in, kind of the education and like the kind of seeing young athletes go through into those professional environments.
Yeah.
That's probably definitely where my passion lies. It's just kind of trying to fit yourself into that and kind of be a respected person that someone's coach or someone's parent be like, I went and saw Ricky, like you should send your daughter, son there. So it's just building a name for myself and kind of establishing myself now that I'm in Wellington. Yeah,
it's cool because I remember, a lot of it is kind of around movement practice, which is something that, our philosophy through Phys Ed most of the time is like around movement. And it doesn't matter the type of movement, we should be able to go in and safely be able to put some people through different types of movement. And I remember the first one you did like a bit of a questionnaire for tradies.
Yes.
That was from the beginning, you're kind of looking at different markets of people who are moving, but how can we actually get longevity in a lot of their practice? So like through that process, has that kind of fed into where you're going now with this new program?
Yeah, and this new program, I suppose the tradie one came from my brother during the first lockdown.
Ah, right.
So I did a little program for him. He's like, mate, I've got bands and I've got a couple weights.
Yeah.
And at the end of lockdown, he's like, I've never felt this good before. And obviously that was because he hadn't been on the job site for the last 4-6 weeks. Yeah. But then we kind of talked about it, and he was just like, most tradies have sore backs, sore shoulders, sore knees. They don't go to the gym. They don't really worry about that shit. They just kind of go, there's that mentality of take a concrete pill, harden up, get back to work.
Yeah.
So I was like, if you could kind of nestle yourself in there somewhere with, it doesn't have to be a 2-hour gym session 3 times a week. It just has to be a warm-up or some kind of mobility movement.
Yeah.
But it was very hard to crack, and I think I probably went about it the wrong way. I tried to target the tradie themselves who probably don't really see the necessity, whereas it's probably better to kind of go above their head and go to the boss, like you could be gaining work time, less days off, more productivity.
For sure.
But then with this newest one, kind of came to me during lockdown, went through a bit of a traumatic experience, and exercise was my outlet. And I thought, if I didn't have exercise here, like what would my mental health actually be like? And I kind of thought, like, how can I help other people who are going through different traumatic experience with their own mental health journeys, but how can I kind of help them realize that exercise is this great vehicle for mental health and kind of feeling better, like dopamine and feeling better about yourself and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of, figured out that the niche was probably guys my age who have fallen out of touch with the gym. And then how can I tie mental health and kind of all that kind of stuff into it, which is kind of the journey that I'm on at the moment.
That's awesome, man. And I just went back, so let's just take it back to the concrete pill statement, which seems to be anything. It's not just like, oh, my back's hurting, take a concrete pill, get going. It's like, oh man, I'm not feeling too good, like emotionally or anything. It's always the concrete pill that people should be taking. So like you're tying this to mental health, and it's kind of like we're using this for help. It's either physically or like all the different facets of health. What do you see? I mean, we'll speak maybe personal experience and then maybe like on a general general radar, but what do you see as like the kind of like the biggest barriers to being able to get people doing this stuff for their health?
Do you mean in terms of a barrier that someone puts up to going to the gym, or just...
No, well, yeah, a bit of like things that they perceive as barriers, but also just like within themselves.
I don't know. I feel like, and I definitely see it a lot when people first come to the gym.
Yeah.
They're always focused not on themselves, but it's that everyone else is watching me.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest barrier that I see with people that aren't really familiar with the gym. And once you get that mindset of, I'm here for myself, everyone else has got their own struggles, obviously. And like, we all know that everyone is going through something.
Yeah.
Whether it be that small or big, no one is worrying about you on the gym floor. They're all, and then there are fuckwits in the gym that may be watching you and may come up and tap you on the shoulder.
Yeah.
But that is not every person.
Yeah.
So I honestly reckon that for the most people that don't go to the gym or do some kind of exercise, that's probably the first barrier. And the second one, like people don't want to look like an idiot and kind of they're not sure what they're doing, so they don't try it.
Yeah.
So it's like, whether that be getting a PT or looking online, YouTube, Instagram, kind of getting a few ideas, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I suppose people like me and yourself come through.
Yeah.
Trying to be that first port of call
for sure,
for someone who's kind of unsure about what they're doing, to help ease that first barrier.
And then as that person who's the first port of call for them, so I remember having a chuckle, like when you did a mental health episode, which I think everyone should listen to, because that will be like a baseline to a lot of the stuff that you're listening to here. But you said apparently you didn't get a job because you weren't personable.
Yes.
But like now you're the first port of call for a lot of people who've never exercised before and have been wanting to do it for ages. How do you take that sort of criticism, knowing that, you know, you believe you're personable, but like, how did you take that on your shoulders and actually turn it into becoming a better practitioner?
So it's kind of twofold. So at the time, I kind of knew that the setting that I was in, I probably wasn't that personable. And
right.
It was a small boutique gym, and it was a cool gym setup. But it was kind of like a 15-minute class or 20-minute class with probably the average age of 50 to 55.
I see. Right.
And so the lady who was taking the class, she started it off. She did the first half, and then I took over the second half. And I think it was the movement that I was coaching, and it was like a 20 seconds on, 40 seconds off. It was like a frog, squat, burpee, jump thing, and I was like, would I ever program this for someone? No. With the population that we're working with, would I ever do that for them? No. So it was probably more me just like a little bit taken back, like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And that was perceived as not being personable. And that probably came, I suppose, at the wrong time, because I'd been in Wellington for 2 months. I couldn't find a job.
Yeah.
And I was kind of starting to question myself. I was 2 weeks away from starting a building apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And like this kind of made me spiral and kind of think about those negative thoughts around, fuck, you're not actually that good at what you do. Like, you've got a master's degree.
Yeah.
You can't even get a job at like this basic gym.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, now I can look at it and like, it wasn't right for me, and it was actually good that it worked out. It was just a shame that was the words they chose to use, rather than you probably need to work on your coaching ability or like your ability to get in with our kind of clientele, I suppose.
Because it's always difficult to hear critiques well, I mean, it's lovely to hear critiques, but sometimes the way that they're delivered, it makes you feel like you are the one in the wrong, instead of like, because like personable, that's your personality. That's like a direct attack. It's not like, hey, when you're working in like this space, so contextually, this didn't work. Okay, cool. Because now you actually are the person who you do online programming, you actually do face-to-face, and you've kind of settled a little bit. You know, you talked about at the start being able to find your feet, but with the different people that you get coming in, do you have like a spectrum of experience, or do you have like mostly early stage people?
For the most part, pretty broad, but I would say most people are kind of starting their journey.
Yep.
And it's, I kind of talk about it a lot, but it's kind of that thing of people come in with this idea of what they want, and they want 5 sessions a week. They want to be eating on a diet plan. They want to be doing this, that, and that. And here's what I think they need. Yeah. So it's that, we're in the middle, can I kind of meet this person so they think they're getting this, but then we're also getting what I want, which is, I had a guy come in the other day, and to start with, he was too nervous to even like come and see me for the consult. He's been paying for the gym membership for a year, but he'd been twice. Right. He was like, cool, I want to go 3 times a week, and I want a meal plan. Yeah. And it was one of those ones where I said, cool, let's start with 2 sessions a week. Yeah. If we can do that for 2 months and you don't miss a session, and you come by yourself at least once a week, then we'll go up to 3. Once we're hitting 3 sessions and you've got some good habits, then I'll start talking to you about food, because at the moment it doesn't matter what you're eating. Yeah. If we can't nail down these gyms and actually get you confident and actually like coming in and working hard, then what's the point? We're just restricting yourself even more, and you're going to feel even more like shit. And it's just a cycle of like, I want this person to come in and use their gym membership for years to come. When I'm not seeing them, can they come into the gym and do a session by themselves? Yeah. Because if they can't do that, then what's the point in doing this, restricting them for 2-3 months or however long that was going to be? Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. I mean, I guess that comes from the type of pedigree that we are in terms of people, but, you know, a lot of it is to actually help the individual. Like, we could take extra sessions. Heck yeah, man, I'll pay you. Oh, you want to do a meal plan? Yeah, I'll check it. But and like money, you're in business. This is what actually pays your bills, puts food on the table. But where do you get that? You know, there's the morals of it all, and the principle that at the end you want this person to be better. And have there ever been moments, because you're like, if you're talking about almost starting a building apprenticeship, like money wasn't always there, and there are the opportunities for you to go and do that. But how do you actually keep that strong moral compass?
Oh, I don't even think it's a question, really. Like, I know that this person is coming and they wanted 3 sessions, which is cool. Like, it's an extra, I don't know, $70 a week. Yep. But if I nail them down for 2 sessions a week for 2 months or a month, and then add in the third one, there's probably a higher chance that they're going to stay for a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Absolutely.
Rather than smashing them at the start and they go, actually, Ricky, like, I can't sleep, I'm sore, like, I don't want to get up in the morning, like, I don't think you're good for me. And they piss off and you've only had them for 3 weeks. So in terms of, I may have made an extra $210 over those 3 weeks, but my ability to earn over the long term with this person, and not that that's, like, I'm not trying to hold on to clients for as long as I can, because I know that I'm trying to get them to a level where they can train by themselves and then they piss off. Like, it's more of a factory where I'm churning out these people who are self-sufficient rather than this retirement village where they're kind of holding on until they die.
But the churn that you spoke of, you know, most times it's high churn rates because people aren't enjoying what they're doing. Like they don't want to go back, rather than a high churn rate because you've given them everything they needed to go forward. And I've always believed it, and I don't know if you have the same sentiment, but I just, like, my job is to make myself redundant.
100%.
And everyone listens to that, they're like, you're fucking crazy. And I'm like, no, but if you do it with enough people, we're going to have, like, a healthier population, which overall is kind of what we're after.
100%. And at the end of the day, like, I'm trying to give someone the skills that if I'm sick for a week, they don't just sit at home and don't go to the gym, or if I happen to ever leave my job, they can still go to the gym and don't have to worry about it. Like, that's the kind of thing that I'm looking forward. As long as obviously we talked about, like, the money thing. Money is important and you need to be able to live. And I've got to that point where I can happily live on the money I'm at. So it's not that I'm going to do things for free. Like, I value my time so much more now than when I first started. When you kind of do things for free or you give friends discounts. But I know that, 2 sessions a week rather than 3 isn't going to break my bank, and I know that it's going to help this person in the long run. So that, morally, like, it's not even a question around, let's just try and capture as much money as we can from this person, because it's not going to help them, it's going to help you, which is the wrong way to be in business, I think.
For sure. And in terms of business models, like, they're more likely to refer other people. Other people are more likely to see them and see that they're, like, they're moving without pain, or they're like, oh, you're looking like this, and they're like, oh, my coach. And then, like, it just kind of builds itself from there. With the business side of things, so this is something that, you know, everyone just thinks trainers go in, you know, you get your qualification, you then know how to run a business. For you, how long did it take you to actually find your feet in the business side of things?
I would say I'm still finding my feet. So I've been running Persico Performance as kind of like my side business / main business for just over a year now. And I've got the money thing down. Like, I use Henry, so someone pays me my student loan, my ACC, all that goes away and I get the rest. So I don't have to worry about that. But it's more like the marketing and kind of the, you know, I spent lockdown putting together like an off-season rugby program. So I don't know, if you put that into hours worked, we're talking 10 to 20 hours. I only have 3 people buy it. And I did this, I thought I was doing the right thing. I did this online questionnaire. So, like, talk about your goals, your training. And then from there, I sent them an email, follow up, like, here's where you are, like, take it to the next level. Let's kind of do this program. And it's just that trial and kind of error around, like, what works, how do I actually get across to the people that I'm talking to. And that's kind of been the biggest thing, of late, is figuring out where that marketing and kind of exposure thing comes into it. Because the rest of the business, like, I know how to capture new clients. We go through a consult, movement screen. Cool, you're keen to start. This is where I can help you. This is where I think we need to start. Cool, let's start next week. That stuff's fine, like that kind of onboarding system. But it's that stuff behind the scenes, Facebook ads, all that stuff that I had no idea about going. I didn't even know they were a thing, really. But it's been quite cool learning about it, and I think that's definitely stuff that'll stick with me for life, like all that kind of stuff. But it's been a slug.
Oh man, because that side of things, it's just like anything. Like, people who go into, you know, you get some sort of qualification. You know, when people say they give you the key to the real world, they open the door for you, but they don't tell you, like, where the light switches are. They don't tell you anything. They're just like, all right, make it work. And then with that, so, I mean, one thing that we've always been kind of aware of, and we're hyper aware of, I guess, because we're the type of people who never think we're doing anything good enough, and we could always be doing better, which to a fault can lead to us not feeling like we're doing the right thing, or that we are the right person for the job. So I mean, you're putting yourself out there, you're putting your brand out there, and you're saying that I'm the person for these people, I'm the person for that. Where's the self-dialogue in actually keeping you on that track without being like, oh, maybe I should pull back?
I mean, I have that conversation with myself every week, to be fair. Like, I'll put up a post. I think Instagram's probably, and social media is kind of bad. Like, you know, I'll spend a day or two putting together this post. Oh, it's this awesome idea. Like, people are going to love it. And you get like 30, 40 likes, and you're just like, oh, why didn't that catch? You know, But it's just literally just chucking it out until something catches, and it's figuring out kind of where you sit. I think I just need to remind myself that I think it's pretty easy to say, oh, like, people don't enjoy what I'm putting out. But I can think about more I've never had a message saying this is shit content,
Exactly.
or I didn't learn anything. Whereas I've had lots of messages saying, I love your content, like I learned something about this or that, and it's kind of, it's holding on to the good things rather than trying to think about those things in your head where you're making scenarios that just don't exist.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've had to realise in my whole life the last few months.
Yeah. Because you've actually dealt with, I mean, we've worked with people at a high level, like on footy, even just like people who train at high levels as well. When they approach you, and they're the people, because I don't assume like you've gone and asked people, hey, can I train you? But like when they approach you, when in your head are you just like, okay, they want me, I'm the person for the job? Or is there a little bit of sitting there like, oh, you could probably get a better coach elsewhere?
Oh, no, 100%. Like you could go online and get a cheaper program that's much better than what I'm doing, but I think when you go to those high level ones, there's less kind of contact with the coach and all that kind of thing. So,
right.
But I don't know, I think about someone like yourself.
Yeah.
So when you come to me, get a program, and I send you the first program, it's just that week's in there. Is he doing this program? And just thinking, what the fuck is this? Or like, why are we doing this? Or why are we doing sets reps? And then it's like, actually no, like I get a message like loving the programming. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I'll do the next one, and then it's that same like, am I going to get a message like, but it's the same thing. I've never had a message saying, what is this?
Yeah.
So it's just that getting okay with yourself. And I'm at a point now where like, I know that my programming's good enough that people aren't going to say that, and people are actually coming to me.
For sure.
So it's just that, okay, cool. Now let's rock this. Let's show them what we've got and kind of put together an unreal program.
Yeah. And because we think about like when I'll talk about a little bit from the consumer side of things. So I just don't want to be sore. Like I obviously want to be sore, but like I just I need to heal. So I've got these rickety, I'm old, I'm getting old. I want to be able to be stronger, and I've got position-specific things that I need to do. I have goals. And then when you program, you actually break it down, and you're like, this is why we're doing this sort of thing. I can talk to you at any point, but then programming for a friend, so someone who's been your friend, and then actually like treating them as a customer, like where's that? Because I know for the longest time, I would let a lot of things slide for friends, and I wouldn't give them the same experience that I would if they were just like a regular customer who I didn't know.
Yeah.
So like, because a lot of the people that you do come into contact with will be people who know you.
Yeah.
So how do you like keep that business line?
So first and foremost, no friend discount.
There we go.
And I learned that. To start with, it was always cheaper.
Yeah.
Now it's not like you're coming to me because you want this, and this is what I offer, and you know the value that I offer because you've seen me do it week in, week out, year on year.
Yeah.
From there, I don't know, I still keep it very, very chill with my friends, but in a professional regard that the programming is still the same. I still give them the level of detail, and I'm still, give them a call, and, the first 5 to 10 minutes of that phone call was probably catching up.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, sweet, what are your goals for this next block? Here's what we're doing. And people like, my friends know that I can still kind of talk the business side of things, and that's what we're here to do, right? They are paying for that service, so they expect that level. But yeah, the same thing, like, I bumped into a few of my clients at R&A, bit of a boogie, a bit of a drink, like, there's still that level of kind of friendship as well. Like, I'm making friends while I'm training people, I'm talking to them daily, we're catching up over Zooms, we're kind of doing this, that, and that. Like, it's cool to be able to, like, say that my clients are my friends, and, like, I'm building a following like that as I go along.
Yeah. No, and I think it's going to be an organic following that you end up getting from that, because you get a lot of people who actually enjoy you as the person, especially if you're putting, like, your name as part of the brand. And then speaking of branding as well, you've recently just done a post, and there's going to be some physio and you crossover. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I moved to Wellington, and kind of I'd heard of Gavin Cross, who's the physio that owns Cross Physio. So he was involved with Stephen Adams as Stephen Adams came through. And so he's now involved in New Zealand basketball and Cricket Wellington and all these other good little things. And so I was I was at him. I want to work with him. I emailed Exodus, the gym that they kind of work out, didn't hear back, and then emailed 2 or 3 more times. And on the 4th one, I got a message back saying, "Hey, we've just posted a PT job online. Awesome. Apply for that." So got in the door at Exodus. Still hadn't met Gav. I sent him a DM on Instagram. I said, "Hey mate, like, I'm Ricky. I've been working in the Mount with an athlete that he knows. Would love to kind of touch base with you and talk over some stuff." Didn't hear back from him. And then one day I kind of got to know the physios that work underneath him. And one of them was like, "Oh, hey, Gav has just read your DM. Like, he didn't know about it. He wants to catch up with you." So we went and sat down. Like, we realised we had quite a few mutual like contacts and that kind of thing. We kind of talked about how we could help each other, and because obviously I'm probably not like the other PTs that have kind of been through the gym beforehand, where I kind of have that strength and conditioning side as well. And And then it just kind of, they referred me clients, I referred them clients, and it's got to the point where we both kind of had this mutual respect for each other's crafts.
Yeah.
And they kind of tapped me on the shoulder and kind of said, we were looking to do this performance wing to our brand, would you be keen? And for me, that's kind of like my dream job probably, is
Awesome.
They love the youth space.
Yep.
Once an athlete has kind of come back from an injury and is ready to go, then they come to me and like, how can we take you even higher than you were before your injury? And that kind of side of things. And I get to work with other professionals and actually use my brain. You know, we have weekly sit downs where we talk over different topics.
Yeah.
And it means that I'm not just sitting in the PT office by myself, gossiping with the other PTs. It means I'm actually using my degree and all that kind of that stuff that comes along with that.
Yeah. And then, so there was just something that you spoke about there with having that strength and conditioning background. How do you walk into like a commercial fitness space and not think that you're better than everyone? Or like if you see someone giving advice, because it's so easy for us. And I know that like I was a bit of a crusader when I came out with my different things, and I was like, why is that happening? And like where do you kind of toe the line in terms of like not disrespecting other people's practices, but also like seeing things and letting it not slide, but just be like, that's probably not the best. Like, how do you actually have those sorts of conversations?
It's an ongoing thing, and I think I've come to realise as I've matured in the last year being a PT, that certain individuals go to PTs not because of they're doing high-end training or they're doing this, that, and that. It's because they want a genuine yarn and they just want someone to be there while they train. And so I did an Instagram post. It was 3 reasons why you should leave your current PT.
Yep.
And this was based on a certain PT at Exodus.
Taking shots.
And so one of the PTs who was not the guy that I was taking aim at,
right,
kind of came up to me and kind of said, you know, like, not great that you kind of did that. Gave me a few reasons and we talked about a few things. And it made me it was 50-50. It made me think about their side more around, you know, like why they might not be doing all this not outrageous stuff, so I shouldn't say that, but why they weren't programming and stuff. Yeah. But on the other hand, it was just like, nah, like you bang out order, that's your job. Yeah. So basically he was saying that he's had people coming into him for 10 years and he knows where they're at and what they're doing, so he doesn't need to program for them. Right. And if he did program for them, that would be another half an hour to an hour a week that he couldn't spend with other clients. Right. So on the one hand, I was like, cool, yeah, you do actually know your clients, but on the other hand, like they're paying you, programming comes into that. And he kind of said, you know, some people that have been coming to me for 10 years haven't got any gains, they just like coming and yarning and doing training. Right. And that kind of made me think, if someone had been coming to me for even a year and they hadn't got any gains, we hadn't got any better, I probably would have said, look, I'm not the PT for you. Yeah. I think you need to go and find someone else. Yeah. But at the same time, like, this person probably enjoys this relationship they have with their PT. Yeah. And then maybe that's the kind of anchor or rock they need in their life. Yeah. So it definitely made me think about it differently and kind of from a different angle. Yeah. But at the same time, I still have to bite my tongue on the daily, some of the things, whether it be someone who just in the gym training and doing something, and I'm not the kind of person who will go up and say, hey mate, like, what are you doing here? Yeah. I struggle with that. Yeah. If someone's like going to hurt themselves, I'll kind of step in and say, hey, mate, easy on. But if it's just kind of like a technique / small thing, I'll probably stay away. Right. Which I probably need to work on that, I think. Yeah, no, I think it's where we all kind of sit at the moment, because we know a lot, but at the same time, like we actually don't know the situation that those people are in, unless it's like you see it and you're like, oh my gosh, something really bad's going to happen here. But we're like, maybe there is a plan. And like I do go through like maybe there, like he's got a big cycle that he's going through, but then I'm like, there is no consistency, but maybe that's the consistency. It's something that we're always going to go through. And then at the same time, it's weird because it gets you questioning what you actually know. Because there are times where you're like, maybe I'm not up to date with the other stuff, but then like you quickly come back to being like, oh, nah, there's no way. Yeah. That's cool. And now, you know, something that you kind of spoke about then was your ability to kind of know what you know, and then also looking at what other people are doing. But then, do you ever get the same where you think other people are looking at what you're doing? 100%. And so like, I came into Exodus, so the lady who kind of looked at my CV and we yarned about kind of the job and stuff, she said, oh, I've never had someone with a thesis apply. Right. And then obviously all the other PTs, my CV obviously got handed around, and I kind of came in with this experience with the Highlanders and all this, and they're like, oh, big wig kind of thing. Yeah. Why would you want to be a PT? So I feel like early on I probably was I do things a lot differently to them.
Yeah.
And I definitely think I probably would have been judged for that.
Yeah.
For good or for bad. One of the PTs like said he loved how I was kind of doing things and how I'd fitted in.
Yep.
The other two, I'd like to think they looked at me and thought, okay, cool, he's doing his own thing, he's professional.
Yeah.
But yeah, I honestly don't know.
Yeah, man, interesting. And then now, so this is where we get into the more what's going on in your brain side of things, because so starting a podcast, right? Yep. Going into a new space, a bunch of different people. Do you ever get scared that people will find this? Like, even though you put this out for a bunch of people to listen to, there's certain people where you're like, oh man, like I actually don't want you to find out about this because I'm a bit more open in this space, but I'm not open with you. But it's like weird. So how do you, when you conduct yourself and you walk into different places, or say you even go with different friends, like we share it, but then we like don't want certain people like, oh no, if they come across it, I'd be embarrassed. Yeah. How do you like? What's that for you? Yeah,
so I suppose I can start with who I am at Exodus is not who I am obviously sitting here or wherever. Like, I literally try and run it like I'm a professional at a pro sports team, or I'm kind of at my ideal job. I'm a gym owner or whatever. I walk in through the door, say good day to reception, go to the office, get my gear for my session, meet my client, and then we're into it. And then once I'm finished, I'm straight out the door. And kind of at the Christmas party, there was awards given out, and my award was Zoomy Boy for being in and out.
Yeah,
and like we had a BYO earlier in the year, and everyone got like joke awards. So there was the Talks a Lot award, there was the Snacks a Lot award, there was the Always Late award. Your boy Ricky got Extreme Professionalism award, and she came out to me. She was like, yours was the only real award.
Yeah.
And literally, it's like they don't know. I could 100% say like none of them actually really know who I am. Like I just there, do my stuff, go. Whereas all the other PTs and all the other workers, they're joking, they're laughing, they're chatting up the gym members and all that kind of thing. Where it's not really who I am. I'm just kind of using the space to run my business.
Yeah.
Cool, gone.
Yeah.
In terms of the rest of the stuff with the podcast, I don't know. Like I think in my head, no one listens to it.
Yeah.
And so I bumped into a good friend from back home at RNA. He's like, "Bro, I listened to your podcast the other week."
Yeah.
And I still get taken aback. Like people listen to it.
Yeah.
And I think because I'm putting it out there, I don't really care who listens.
Right.
I think there was obviously one person who I did probably for my last one, obviously about my breakup. That obviously my ex listening to that would probably be like a bit of a
yeah.
But other than that, I think because I'm quite open with everything, with anyone, like I'll literally have a conversation to anyone about anything.
Yeah.
I don't really think about that side of it, which is probably quite good.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll just be like staying home, like I'm not going out there, mate. I don't know who's out there. And something, we actually in last lockdown, the first lockdown, we did like how important it is to hire a coach and the reason we hire a coach. And we've just gone through multiple things with getting people more active, but then sometimes the coach needs a coach, but more for this thing, the brain, right? So for your head and how everything else works in. So we were just talking before, and your, like I said, episode 10 of your podcast was a solo, you talking about your mental health journey. And it was weird. It was like and this is what I get a lot for my podcast, but like, it just seemed like you were saying a lot of the things, just like change a couple words here and there, but like the same dialogue. And I think it's the same type of people we are. We want to help people, but we also don't believe we're the right person to help those people.
Absolutely.
So because we're like that, we also find it hard to get help because we don't want other people to be like, he needs help, he can't be helping us. So when did it switch for you to be like, I'm getting help now, a therapist is the way to go?
Yeah. So I suppose I had a good friend pass away probably 3 years ago, almost coming up 3 years.
Yeah.
And after that experience, I didn't really know where my head was at, like where I was at with it all. I was like, I should probably go and talk to someone and kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
And it just never happened. Like I kept putting it off. And then the breakup happened, and the first thing I was like, right, this is my chance to go and see someone. And actually, I'm a bloke who would never share a tear, would never tell anyone about my feelings, would never really knew what was going on inside me. So I was like, it's probably about time I kind of figured out what that was like.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the first things I did was, and it took a few days. I just trawled Google, to try and find someone who A, looked like they would be a good fit, and then B, actually had available slots, because the amount of like people I emailed and came back and said we're not taking any new clients. Like, kind of thought, I was like, if I was someone who was, I've never been like this, and I hope that people who are like this get the help they need. But if I was close to kind of ending it all, I would see that as a barrier and be like, no one's here for me.
Yeah.
And that was so eye opening, and because I'd never really been a part of all that, seen that side of like the therapy and like trying to get help. I managed to find a pretty good therapist online and did the first few sessions through Zoom, which was very weird. Like I kind of wanted that in-person experience.
For sure.
Just to kind of gauge and kind of be able to talk. But I went into it knowing that I had to open up and this was my chance to kind of figure out what was going on and kind of grow from there.
Yeah, and just from your perspective, so being someone who feels like, you know, you're pretty in control of most things. Like in your life, you know, your training's going well, business is going well, like you're pretty onto it, you know, you got your degree, you're an intelligent person. How do you, because like this was an issue that I had, and it was just like actually fully opening up, because I was very good at saying what is true but isn't a full truth.
Yeah.
So like how did you for yourself find that, like, okay, fully opening up is the way to go?
I just was I was at rock bottom in terms of so it's all well and good you saying that everything was going well, but at this point, kind of when I went to the therapist, nothing was going well for me.
Right.
So the business was at a point where I was hemorrhaging money. My ex was helping me pay my rent.
Yeah.
I was just a shell of my former self, and I was just like, if I don't do this now, like there's just nothing. I had nothing really to go back to Wellington to. I had nothing, so I was just like, this is my chance to flip the switch, figure out who I am, where I am with my thoughts and kind of my being, and then come back and just start afresh, knowing that I kind of had a new life to kind of go to after lockdown.
Yeah.
So it was kind of not do or die, but like I knew that was the right thing to do to figure it all out. And
we were talking about, you know, getting a coach and how money is a huge kind of barrier to a lot of people. Now, getting therapy isn't cheap, and it's been something that I wrestled with for ages, because I was like, hey, actually, I'm coming because I had financial stress, and now I'm putting another like stress on top of that. Has that kind of paid itself off, or is it paying itself off?
100%.
Yeah.
So I suppose I was very lucky that my health insurance covered a majority of them, so I had enough to cover 4 sessions.
Yeah. And
then I paid for one on top, so that $184 a pop. So you know, close to $1,000 for 5 sessions. But I think to where I am now in terms of being my authentic self, that my confident, personable self, regardless of what that gym says about me. And I think about how that kind of relates back to my business, and actually now I'm at a point where, okay, I'm cool with getting in front of the camera and doing a wee social media video, or I'll go and talk to someone at the gym and yarn about their training and maybe get a client. So in terms of, especially like from a business side of view, like my ability to earn grows because I'm now back to this person who's not caught up in my social anxiety, or like my anxiety of like, what are they going to think about me?
Yeah.
Like, who am I to go up to them and say this? Now I'm just like, cool, like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They need this help. Like, let's see if we can kind of work this out.
Nice. And like, I mean, there's always going to be times where, you know, you get a little bit tired or something doesn't quite happen. Do you find that it's easier for you to bounce back from those negative thoughts now?
100%.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing for me was actually realizing that I had those negative thoughts.
Right.
Because for so long I was sitting in my head talking myself down.
Yeah.
I just thought that was the normal. Yeah, that was who I was. Whereas now it's like, you've got this voice in your head that's saying, you can't do that. What are you doing? You don't know what you're talking about. And I've just been listening to the book Chatter.
Yep.
And so he talks about distancing yourself from your thoughts. So my thing now is, if I have those thoughts, if this is me here, I sit back up top.
Yeah.
And you go, Ricky, you've been here before. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're going to be fine. Just go and do it. And you come back to yourself and you're like, cool, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, he talks about the science behind it, but it honestly works a treat.
Yeah.
And yes, whenever I feel like coming on, it's just that calming yourself down. Cool, you've got this. You've been here before. This person will see your value, or you're not going to screw up your words. You're not going to sit there and mumble.
Yeah.
Just have it.
Yeah. And I would say similar things where it's just like, if you do something, the action was like, there was an action, but that action doesn't define you.
Yeah.
So like, yes, okay, in this moment, I mean, we're all human. We're going to make those little mistakes as well, but like, if you don't reflect on it, that's where that's where the trouble comes, is that you don't go back and look at it. And we've all been reflective practitioners. Now, with this experience that you've gone through, I mean, because you're pretty positive about it, and you wanted to tell more people that, you know, they should go. And have you had like a kind of response where people like hear it and then they're like, man, if Ricky's doing it, I can do it, or there might be something that's good for me?
100%. And I think when I put it out to the world, I wasn't really sure what the response was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, I knew I wasn't going to get hate messages, because obviously it's quite a not many people, like not many guys are really putting out mental health stuff, so I knew it was going to be reasonably received well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like 2 of my best friends are now booked in to see therapists.
Unreal.
the amount of messages like, I resonate with that negative talk so much. Definitely need to work on that. So I started flicking out a podcast that kind of like the podcast where I realized that you could actually channel those thoughts.
Yeah.
And the amount of messages like and I suppose we talked about this earlier, but people were saying you're so brave for doing this.
Yeah.
And I flicked the switch on that, and I was just like, flipped the script. Sorry, I was like, it's not brave when you know you need to do something. Like, it was just, people look at that and go, that's scary, that's daunting. But for me personally, being who I am, I was just like, I know people will get a lot out of this.
Yeah.
And it was never really a question of like, do I have the balls to sit down and tell this to the world?
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, how am I going to approach this, and how will I tell my story?
Right. And I guess because we come from, like I said before, multiple times, we come from that wanting to help people. So the daunting part is, what if I don't do this?
Yeah.
Like, what happens to a lot of the people that I care about, or people that I could possibly help, if I hadn't put this out there, or if I hadn't just like shared an experience that definitely will resonate with a lot of people.
Exactly.
Like, it's weird. Like, when I was listening to it, there's a lot of podcasts that I listen to, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that kind of, yeah. But like, everything you were saying, I was just like, shit, nah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, I've definitely had that before. And it was cool. It was cool to listen to it and just hear it from someone who, is similar to you. So there'll be a lot of people.
And that's the kind of the thing with those, is like, if you can help one person.
Yeah.
And that was my thing. So I said to myself, if I can help one person who is dealing with any of those things but doesn't actually realize it, then that's the person that'll be fine with me. Like, if I only help that one person who is now like, shit, I actually have social anxiety, or shit, I'm actually really hard on myself. I need to go and work on that. That would have been enough. But the fact that, I had 20, 30, 40 messages about it, like,
unreal, man.
Just,
yeah. No, it's so cool. And it's just like, it's the little things. We always think, we kind of think that the big end of different things, like, we want to prevent disease, we want to prevent this. Like, ultimately, we would like if less people committed suicide, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, day to day, if people aren't enjoying waking up in the morning and like going through mundane activities and not really optimizing who they are, so like, that's why we get people to train, so that they can be better overall. Like, this is kind of part of your overall program, right?
Yeah.
100%.
Like, I was talking to a client yesterday where I've had 2 weeks off over Christmas. Finally back on the gym floor yesterday, and I said to him, like, I am myself when I'm on the gym floor, when I'm coaching, when I'm in front of someone. And I kind of see, like, you're hard pressed to find people that actually say that, like, they go to work and they become themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky in that regard. And so it's like, how can you, without people feeling that at work, how can you just try and make sure that they're happy and like living a good life in their own head, regardless of what their work's like, in the gym or exercise, some kind of outlet is the perfect place for that.
Yeah. And then just thinking about your new programming, you talked about people, pretty much optimizing themselves in their 20s and 30s. That's the type of clientele you want to get through. Would you add, because I know on that episode you also talked about the 3 things that you're doing for yourself. There's a bit of gratitude, journaling, all that sort of stuff. Would you add that sort of component to it, or like an aspect of it?
Yep. So I'm kind of putting it together at the moment. So I've done like a trial group. So out of lockdown last year, I did a trial group. So I think I've got 6 guys at the moment who are kind of doing a similar program.
Yeah.
I probably haven't gone into as much detail as I will with this next one.
Right.
But every couple of weeks I'll do like, what was a win for you this week? What worked well? And on a Sunday, because I've got a client who runs his own business as well. And on a Sunday we sit down and we go over our intentions for the week. So
good.
Basically just a yarn kind of like this. We talk about like what we've got on for the week, and then what we want to get out of the week, and like a few things that we're really going to nail down. So I tried to kind of do that with them. So on a Sunday I said, right boys, like, this is what I'm doing for the week. This is my goals. Yeah. Like, I'd love it if you don't have to post them into the group. Just have a think about it and kind of think about what you want to get out of this week. And I think, going forward into the new program, kind of nailing down the small things. So I've got one thing already planned that's like around routines.
Yeah.
So just creating healthy routines in evening and morning.
Yeah.
I'm just going to
go for it.
And then I want to outsource, so I'm going to try and bring in some people to actually talk about mental health and do some Zooms. I've got hopefully going to line up Conrad Goodhue to do a nutrition talk.
Yep.
Because nutrition plays into that stuff
for sure
quite a lot as well. And then just trying to figure out the right person to kind of do the mental health stuff, rather than myself, who actually is kind of a little bit more in their lane talking about it.
For sure.
Because there's only so, like, I can talk about my experience and what I've done, but there's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more out there in terms of fixes and stuff. So it's just figuring out the best way to bring it in so people don't feel like I'm shoving it down their throats. Like, I want it to be organic and that they feel like it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
So just approaching it the right way and kind of using the right little ingredients rather than trying to throw the whole meal at them.
Yeah, because I was just about to say, I was about to use that analogy of like, you're just hiding the veggies.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing the stuff like it is creating habits and all that sort of stuff, but you're not calling it whatever the like mental health aspect of it is. So we're not doing mental health skills today, but you're just like, this is part of my training program, but it's actually addressing those sorts of things as well. No, that's cool, man. And just thinking about yourself and where you fit into all of this, and helping a lot of other people. How are you going to continue to keep yourself level? Because I know when you become that person that a lot of people go to, you like a person above you is kind of nicer, so that you can unload it and all that sort of stuff. So you have good mentors, or
honestly, in the mentor department, I don't really have anyone at the moment. I know that the therapy route is something I'm going to stick with.
Yep.
And it's someone my therapist is someone I'll go back to.
Yeah.
On a regular basis. In terms of that, probably Conrad Goodhue. Like I went and saw him for a few sessions as a dietitian.
Yep.
And that probably changed my mindset on a lot of things. So Conrad, I don't know how familiar you are with his stuff, but
I just know he did backwards burpees up Baldwin.
He's
I follow all his stuff. He's an amazing dude.
So at not one point during our hour-long Zoom did we talk about what I'm consuming. We didn't talk about, right, you need to have chicken, rice and veggies.
Yeah.
He said, right, what does a normal day look like for you? And he said, okay, like, where can we fit in and make a plan around what you're eating? Because I talked about him and I was like, yeah, I've got a PT session in the morning or 2 or 3, and then I come home. And sometimes I'll eat now, sometimes I'll eat in an hour. I kind of just play it by ear. And he's like, no, fuck that. Like, you need to have a structure.
Yeah.
You need to know exactly what your day looks like so that you can actually be productive.
Yeah.
And it just changed the way that I kind of did things as like being self-employed and actually not having a boss.
Yeah.
Because now I have a strict routine that I kind of go through, and I know when I'm eating, what I'm eating throughout the week. And it actually means like, okay, cool, I have 2 hours now where I'm sitting down on my laptop and I'm going to do work. And kind of tied in, so I don't want to call it New Year's resolution, but I kind of reflected on where I want to go, and then made some goals based on that.
Yeah.
And one of them is holding myself to the same standards that I hold other people to.
Fantastic.
So, for example, if you were late this morning,
yeah,
I would have texted you like, hey, mate, where are you?
Yeah.
Whereas on a Monday, when I tell myself I'm going to be upstairs on my laptop at 10 and I turn up at 10:45, I'd be like, oh, well, I've just got to work quicker, or I've got to do this. Whereas it's not like, no, Ricky, you told yourself you're going to be here.
Yeah.
You get to that laptop at 10 and actually do that work.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like having that internal dialogue of like, hey, mate, like pull finger.
Yeah.
Which hopefully is going to help take the old business through the roof.
Yeah. And I think that dialogue goes both ways. That's like, you be strict on yourself when you've set an expectation for yourself, but also not being so strict on yourself. And like, because for your friends, you probably let them off a little bit, or you'd be like, hey man, you don't have to be down on yourself. You did this. So having that talk as well on the other end, man, that's so cool. And then just thinking about going forward, being able to train in Wellington and just other things that you have on the horizon. Is there any like long-term thoughts, or maybe in the next couple of years for you?
Honestly, I'm looking at trying to go remote.
Yep.
In the next 6 months. So I've got a 6-7 week Europe trip planned with one of my friends.
Fantastic.
And then my kind of goal is short term is from there is to park up in Italy.
Nice.
And do like a volunteer gig. So you work for like 20-30 hours on like a vineyard or an orchard.
Yep.
And you get accommodation and food. Yeah. Then have my online business on the side where like I'm still doing all that kind of stuff. So I've got time in the week because I'm only working 20-30 hours a week.
Yeah. And
do that. And just I've kind of got to this point where I have no responsibilities really in my life in terms of like nothing holding me to a certain location.
Yeah.
So I want to do that and just go and do that maybe for 6 months and then come back. And so the physio practice that I'm working with, they're looking at moving into their own gym.
Right.
And so I'd love to come back and try and help them.
Tie it all back in together.
Yeah, I think that's probably like on my horizon is a little bit of soul searching / going and find myself overseas and then coming back and kind of setting up some ties and kind of looking forward to getting stuck into the rest of my life, I think.
Right, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. And then, so speaking about things that we do daily, so this is something that I ask everyone, but I usually say it's the last question, and then we're like, I hear you say something, and then I go into other things. But what is something that you do every day or close to every day that helps you feel like you've optimized the day?
Ooh, shivers.
You can do multiple things.
I'm just trying to think on the daily. Obviously, I haven't been my normal routine for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Honestly, I probably think it's going for like having a coffee. So like, whether it's I have PT sessions in the morning, I'll go to a cafe around the gym and I'll have a coffee and do a little bit of work or message some clients, and it's just like probably the quiet time of my day where I don't have too much to do. I'm just kind of sitting there thinking.
Yep.
And then if I'm having one here, it's probably sitting down and just kind of thinking while I'm having my cup of coffee.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of anything else. I got good at the journaling,
Yeah.
but it comes in waves.
Yeah.
So like 3 weeks, I'll be every day, I'll be smashing it.
Yeah.
The next 2 weeks, it won't be there. So it's probably not something I do every day, but it's something I want to do every day.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, just asking you about that. So, like, when you do it, because I remember when I first started doing it, and I felt so cringe. Like, I don't know, like, it's great. I know it's great, and I know that in the long term, it's going to be great for me, and, like, it helps with my thinking. But there are times where I'm, like, taking it all in, trying to be present, and I'm just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And, like, so I don't know if you've ever found that, or maybe that's why it comes in, like, things, or is it that you get good and you start feeling good so that you don't have to do it anymore?
Yeah, and that's where my problem is, because it needs to become an everyday thing, so you not that you don't get the lows, because the lows are going to come, right?
Yeah.
But when the low comes, you've still got those practices in place, whereas like I'll be feeling shit for a week and then I'll get back into the journaling and start to like the gratitude and stuff. But in terms of, I do a very low level of journaling, so it's like the 5-minute journal.
Yeah.
So it's literally 3 things you're grateful for, 3 intentions for the day, and 1 affirmation.
Yeah.
So I don't sit there and write about things off the top of my head. It's more just channeled. I write pretty much the same 3 intentions or same gratitude. I write the same affirmation. Yeah. And then it's just the daily stuff changes depending on what I've got on. So it is a very low level one, but it helps so much. And I know that I need to do it every day.
And like the type of affirmation, so I know you were talking about on that episode as well, you were talking about being enough.
Yeah.
For you, like when you write it, do you believe it? Like what do you do to actually make yourself believe it? Like do you reflect on the things that you have been doing, or are you just happy to say it and then just believe it and go with it?
So I think it's something that I know, but I doubt.
Yeah.
So it's just that starting that day with like, I am enough. And that might be, I am enough that I don't need to be someone I'm not, or I am enough that I know who I am and that is enough to everyone. And if they don't like that, they don't know. Yep. Or I am enough in a business sense that I know what I'm doing, you know, I've got the brains behind it and it's just backing myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, inside I know that, but it's just that voice inside my head that I'm kind of trying to stop every day by saying, writing it down, I am enough.
Awesome. And in terms of my hard-ass self, so just the way that we are, and something that I really enjoyed that you spoke about on that episode, because I think the difficult part of us having the difficulties is that we can go from doing all these different things to actually burning out fully and then retracting completely. But one thing you said is that you always will go like get some sort of exercise in. It doesn't matter how you're feeling, just go and do it. Even if it's not 100% like intensity, you're still doing something. And I think I really enjoyed that, because I know a lot of the times when we're talking about self-help and all these, it was like, take some time for yourself. But in that time, I still believe you have to do the things that can bring you joy and happiness, like fully retracting, eating ice cream and watching Netflix, maybe for an hour or something. But like you need to go do the things that are good for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and so my thing on that is sometimes going to the gym is ticking the box. Yep. So it's turning up, putting those shoes on and jumping up with like, you might do, for example, for you, I've set you a session. Yeah. You might jump in and do the warm up and go, like, fuck, like I'm not really feeling this. I'm just going to jump on the bike for an hour. Yeah. That's sweet. You've turned up to the gym. You've kept that habit going. Yeah. But now you're actually going to leave with probably a little bit more dopamine from going to the gym and kind of working, regardless of what you did. Yeah. And you know that you've ticked that box, and that's a mental tick the box. It's not, we're not working towards our end goal here. We're not getting, might not have gotten better, but we've ticked that box mentally, and that's another thing that you can say, okay, cool, today I wasn't feeling that good, but I still got to the gym and I still did something. 100%. And it's just about those small steps moving forward rather than the big step that we were looking to take. Yeah. And it's just about reevaluating, okay, cool, what can I do outside of the gym to make sure that when I do go to the gym I'm ready to go, or messaging me, hey Ricky, like feeling a bit burnt out, can we change the programming up? And I'll say, sweet, and I'll change that as we go, you know? Yeah. It's that small stuff like that that makes those massive big that massive difference as we're moving forward. Yeah, man, it's honestly the really, really small things. And I think once we start thinking long term and looking at the overall picture, that's when we can start to see, oh yeah, sweet, everything that I do now actually does make a difference. Mate, this has been an amazing chat. If there's anything else that you wanted to get into before we ended up here, it's been amazing. I was just going to say one thing, and I've literally lost it as you said that. Damn it! But no, it's the same thing. So, you know, one bad day doesn't make a bad week. One bad meal doesn't lose your diet. It's the same with the gym. You know, one bad session where you come in and don't do it. Yeah. You're still going to be working towards that program, and it's still that consistency and showing up is just massive. That's probably my main thing to finish on. Mate, I love that. Yep, you just got to show up, be consistent with everything, and maybe it's not always 100%, but like along the 1%,
every little bit, and we're actually going to be a whole different person in a short amount of time if we just keep at it, mate. It's been a pleasure having you on, being a good friend for a long time, actually being one of your clients as well, but also just being an all-round good bloke, mate. Really appreciate it. I hope I will share everything that you're doing. So in terms of the programs that you're doing, your own podcast when you're
my number one fan, yeah. I love it.
I love it, man. It's been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on. I love it.